sex, male, female, and also by residents, whether it's rural, urban or rural. What we're introducing at WR Numero are new novel demographic groupings that we think are very much important in further understanding social-political attitudes. So for example, we're also publishing data on, we're also disaggregating survey data based on the age groups, based on gender groups. So not only heterosexual communities, but also those who identify LGBTQIA+ as part of that community. So now we also get to see what are their political preferences. Then we've also introduced this variable on partisanship. This is self-identified partisanship. So we also get data on whether the preferences of administration supporters or oppositions or other types of partisans differ from each other. And then we can also find in the data the differences between OFW households and non-OFW household, meaning whether they are a household receiving remittances from OFWs, no? Given that we know it's developing the literature that they also play a role in shaping the political decisions of those at home. And then lastly, on the voter type, so we've also identified likely voters, first-time voters, and those who are not really participating as much in the electoral exercise because they haven't registered yet, or they're registered but they don't participate. Before proceeding to the survey findings, allow me to discuss just briefly the methods of this particular survey. So we've conducted a nationally representative probability survey last December 2023. It's among 1,457 Filipinos, adult population, so ages 18 and above. And all of the aspects of the survey, from sampling, questionnaire, interviews, data quality, weighting, the entire process, we carried it out on our own. No? So nothing was subcontracted. So on the sampling, given the sample size of 1,457, our survey is designed to be nationally representative at a plus or 3 minus percent, no? Plus or minus 3%. Yun yung margin of error, the 95% confidence level, and then you'll see the breakdown for the different areas. No? So for NCR, it's 7, for Luzon, 4, Visayas, 6, Mindanao, 5, similarly at the 95% confidence level. You also see there the breakdown of the sample sizes according to these areas. We've conducted the interviews through a computer-assisted personal interviewing. So meaning that the interviewers conducted the interview in person, face-to-face, but using a mobile device or a tablet, no, that is internet capable, no? Because that's how we collect the data. The exact dates of the fieldwork were between November 24 to December 24. No? So yung iba inabot namin habang nagno-Noche Buena. And the interviews were conducted primarily in Cebuano, Filipino, or a combination of both, depending on the comfort level of the respondent. All interviewers were personally trained, recruited, supervised by our team at WR Numero. They completed several training sessions on the conduct of survey. In terms of data quality, we've done 2 types of data quality checks. One is that the first step is to assess the accurateness, the accurateness of all the submissions of the interviewers on the ground. No? So whether there's a duplication of entries, missing information, incomplete information, etc. We have GPS locations of the interviews. We ask for photo evidence. No? So there are several things that they have to fulfill to be able to graduate from the first step. The second step is a spot check. And around 80% of all the collected data have been spot checked. The spot check would involve a text message and a phone call to the respondent as long as they don't refuse to talk to us. No? So ibig sabihin, they were interviewed on the ground, and then after a few days, no, our team will also check in and call them and check whether they've really done the interview, nakausap po ba kayo, ito ba yung sinagot nyo, etc. etc. So this ensures high data quality. And then lastly, standard weighting procedures. So we've weighted the data to reduce the biases. No? So our survey data is weighted against the national level census-based population data, no, on the basis of age, sex, education, and regional population distributions. So we can answer more of your questions about the methodology later on, but also feel free to reach out to us for some technical questions. So let me begin. No? So first, on the assessment of national administration and officials. Around 7 out of 10 Filipinos say that they support and positively view the Marcos Jr. administration. No? The first question involves whether they characterize themselves, no, as supporter of the administration, right? And you'll see there that yung first na, yung nasa taas, no, 39.6% say that they support the administration very much, and then 30.2% say that they support, but still maintain a critical attitude. Yun yung 30.2%. Yun yung medyo grayish na blue, no? So if so you put the two together, you see that there's a high support for the Marcos Jr. administration, but a good 30% also saying that they maintain a critical attitude, a healthy critical attitude in their relationship with the Marcos Jr. administration. The question below has something to do with the performance of the president, and you see that a combination of 52.6% and 13.7% either say that the performance of the president has been good or very good, no? At least during the time that the fieldwork was conducted. We've also asked an interesting question, whether they think that the former Vice President, Leni Robredo, could have done a better job in solving the problems of the country compared to the current president. So we want them to reflect as well, whether they think an alternative government could have been better. And here what we see is that our respondents are quite divided. Around 36% agree that former VP Robredo would have performed better than Marcos Jr. But also a good number, around 29.2% and 5.8%, no? So halos at the same level, no, say that they disagree with this particular statement, or they very much disagree with this particular statement, and then a good number in the middle, mga unsure, no? So we can say that many Filipinos are divided on this particular statement that we've asked. So these are just a sample of questions that we've asked. There are definitely more questions that we've asked, and I'll go through them, no? Most importantly, the political preferences. So for example, on whether they've regretted voting for President Marcos Jr. and Vice President Sara Duterte, over 80% of Filipinos said they have no regrets, no, for voting for the two, no, in their current positions. No? So we've also asked questions about the barangay and SK elections, no? So more than 90% of Filipinos say that it was orderly and peaceful in their particular barangays, no? And that 85%, no, of course, we are very much happy to see the return of the yung na-delay na BSKE, no, after 5 years of waiting. So Filipinos are welcoming the return of the barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections, no? And they claim that for most part, no, it was conducted orderly and peaceful in their barangays, no? I'll zoom through this. Ito yung mga iba't ibang issues, but I think we are quite familiar already with these issues, no, more or less. We've also asked them to compare the different presidents, no, since Marcos Sr. up to the past immediate one, Rodrigo Duterte. And what we can see are more or less two things, no? Rodrigo Duterte is rated as the most popular of the presidents, but precisely we asked what they think of the performance of the presidents. So Rodrigo Duterte is believed by the respondents to be to have, no, a good performance, no? Either good or very good performance. And then you'll see that Ferdinand Marcos Sr. is closely behind, no? And then we also have on the flip side naman, those who presidents who were rated negatively on the performance, no? We have Gloria Macapagal Arroyo and Joseph Estrada. So, okay. We've also asked questions on their perspectives on select historical events, kagaya ng Batas Militar or martial law during the time of Marcos Sr., the EDSA People Power 1, pagpapaalis ng base militar ng US noong 1991, war on drugs, etc. What we see is that the war on drugs, for example, is among the different historical events selected by the respondents that they say that they have a positive, if not a very positive view of it. And then that is followed by the martial law during Marcos Sr. time, and then the creation of war, no, as a result of the peace talks between the government and MILF. No? So the nation is also quite divided on some issues, kagaya ng EDSA People Power 1 and the end of the US military bases. So at this point, I'll discuss our pre-election preferences, no? Starting with the 2025 Senate elections. So here we see rank 1 to 17. Erwin Tulfo is the top choice for most Filipinos based on the survey at 59.7%. Next is Rodrigo Roa Duterte at second at 53.8%. But you'll also notice that the numbers, no, are magkakalapit, no? They're quite close to each other, and given the margin of error of plus or minus 3%, that means that marami actually tie, no? Kaya makikita nyo yung parang rough ranking here, no? This represents 1 to 17, especially if you look at the 10 to 11, yung kay Pulong Duterte hanggang kay Abby Binay, no? Halos magkakadikit na talaga yung mga numbers nila, no? So you couldn't, so that means that statistical tie, and then that's also the same for the others above, no? So merong mga outliers na Erwin Tulfo, Rodrigo Duterte, but the rest there are may mga katabi sila, no? May mga kapitbahay sila. Okay, then this is rank 13 to 30. You'll see that those at the top of this rank 18 to 30 rather, you'll see that, for example, Isko Moreno, Marroa, Sally Roque, no? Medyo malapit pa sila dun sa numbers din sa previous slides. Okay. Just a preview of makita nyo yung mga new naming mga demographic groupings. So now, we can identify that for administration supporters, Rodrigo Roa Duterte is the top Senate top choice for Senate candidate. For opposition supporters, it's Erwin Tulfo. For independents, it's Erwin Tulfo. For voter types, across the different types of voters, si first-time voter, likely voters, as Erwin Tulfo is a top choice. No? Sa mga registered pero hindi mo maboto, they say it's Rodrigo Duterte. No? Ganun din sa unregistered pero pwede naman makapag-register ng mga botante. Okay. OFW households, no? If you are an OFW household, the top choice, yung nasa second na column, 62% is Rodrigo Duterte, siya yung top choice for Senate. And then for non-OFW households, it's Erwin Tulfo. Okay. By income class, we're quite familiar with this already, but interestingly, the top choice for the ABC is Rodrigo Roa Duterte, 65.73%. For Class D, it's Erwin Tulfo. For Class E, again, it's Erwin Tulfo. This is age group, no? So 30 and below, medyo magkalapit lang talaga. Tulfo and Duterte. For 31 to 59, it's Tulfo. For 60 and above, it's Tulfo. By sex, we see that it's Erwin Tulfo for both males and females. By gender, interestingly, for heterosexual identifying respondents, Tulfo is the top choice at 60%. And then, dito medyo nag-iba, 52% ang top choice ng LGBT identifying respondents ay former VP Lenny Robredo, no, at 52.14%. And then there are those who refuse to disclose or refuse to answer the question of gender. Tito Soto is the top choice for those who refuse to disclose their gender. No? 72%. Okay. This is your standard by geographic area. You see Tulfo leading Metro Manila, and then the rest of Luzon. In Visayas, you also see Tulfo leading, and then in Mindanao, you see Duterte leading that particular area. Rural-urban, Tulfo is the top choice in rural areas and in both rural and urban areas. So medyo mabilis lang po ito, but if you are very interested in the data that we're presenting, this is available on our website at wrnumero.com, and we look forward to your comments and your interest in the data that we're presenting. So now down to the 2028 presidential election. Based on our December 2023 survey, Sara Duterte is the top choice as a potential presidential candidate at 35.6 or 36%, followed by Rafi Tulfo at 23%, and then behind it are Leni Robredo, Amy Marcos, Manny Pacquiao, and Robin Padilla, Rizal Tiveros, and Martin Romualdez. Okay. Nakita nyo dito na hindi sigurado, wala sa listahan. That means that they've provided other names, but it's not on the list. On our next survey, which is going to be released a month from now, that's our March 2024 survey, we've already added an option for them to provide specific names. So we'll see if that will change, whether if there's an option to provide a name of their own preference, baka may new names na mag-emerge from here. Okay, so ganun din from, I'll show you the different, the breakdown for each of the demographic groups. For the administration supporter, Sara Duterte is the top choice for presidency. Rafi Tulfo naman for opposition supporter. Independents say it's Sara Duterte, and the unsures it's Sara Duterte. For voter, according to voter types, for first-time voter, it's Sara Duterte. Likely voter, so across the different voter types, it's Sara Duterte. For OFW remittance receiving, remittance receiving households and otherwise, it's also both Sara Duterte. In terms of socioeconomic, ganun din. The story is still the same, across the different socioeconomic groups. Also with the different age groups. And sex, so same yung top choice. I think, yeah. And then, ganun din by gender. Yeah. I think nagbabago lang yung story by area. So Sara Duterte leads Metro Manila, Visayas, and Mindanao. But Rafi Tulfo, medyo close lang, but he leads rest of Luzon as a presidential choice. Urban-rural, that's also the same story. Sara leads in both urban and rural. And then, on the 2028 vice presidential election, we've got Senator Grace Poe at 22%, and then Senator Amy Marcos at 15%, and then followed by other personalities as you can see. As you can see there. So across the different demographics, so dito medyo may mga dissimilarities sa story. So Senator Amy Marcos is the top choice for admin supporter, Grace Poe for opposition supporter, and then Manny Pacquiao for independent. And then for those unsure, it's Leni Robredo at 11.57%. So medyo iba-iba, depending on your partisanship. This is for the vice presidency. For the different types of voters, we see that ties si Grace Poe and Amy sa first time. Sa likely voter, it's Grace Poe. Sa unregistered, pero eligible namang maging botante, Grace Poe, and then registered but hindi bumoboto, it's Robin Padilla. OFW households, for OFW households, the top choice is Grace Poe. That's also the same for non-OFW receiving households. And then for class ABC by income class, it's Robin Padilla. Class D, it's Amy Marcos. Class E, it's Grace Poe. By age group, meron ding differences here. Amy Marcos, the top choice for 30 and below. Grace Poe for 31 to 59. And then also the same for 60 and above. By sex, Grace Poe for both males and females. By gender, Among heterosexual identifying, Grace Poe is the top choice. Among the LGBTs, it's Ivy Marcos. Among those who refuse to answer, it's Grace Poe once again. And then by area, in Metro Manila, this is led by Ivy Marcos at 30.97%. Grace Poe leads rest of Luzon at 30%. Visayas is led by Grace Poe at 20%. And then Mindanao is led by Manny Pacquiao at 13%, tied with Grace Poe. So, by rural-urban, so Grace Poe leads the rural areas, no? And then si Ivy naman in urban areas. Time's up now. I'm done. So, this is a preview of the survey data that we have. Once again, it's available online. Meron kaming nilabas na public brief. It contains all of the publicly available survey questions and survey results that we, based on the survey that we've conducted in December 2023. So we invite you to subscribe to the WR Numero Philippine Public Opinion Monitor. We're very convinced that the innovations that we've introduced to the practice of doing survey and presenting survey data will also help us fulfill our different missions in this particular space. So you can email us at subscriptions@wrnumero.com, or you can just go to our website at wrnumero.com. Again, we're very happy and pleased to be part of this conversation, and congratulations to the project participants headed by Dr. Julio Tehamki for a very successful event today. Thank you.
Alright, thank you very much, Mr. Cliff Arguelles, for that very substantial presentation. We know a lot of you may want to ask questions now, but keep it under your hats as we turn to another thought-provoking session by the research team of the Ateneo School of Government and Participate. Our next presenter is Dr. Julio Tehamki, a professor of political science and international studies at De La Salle University, who has published extensively on the topics of elections, party politics, and political dynasties. He has been cited as one of only 4 political scientists in the 2015 Webometrics list of 150 top scientists in the Philippines, based on Google Scholar citations. His research works have been indexed in Scopus and Web of Science Social Sciences Citation Index. Currently, he is the chief of party of Participate, a non-partisan pro-democracy coalition between the Ateneo School of Government, La Salle Institute of Governance, and civil society organizations.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Thank you very much for that wonderful and very generous introduction. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Good afternoon. I need to be energetic because this is after lunch, and I don't want to lull you into sleep after a very hearty meal. Much of the findings that were shared by Cliff, simply underscores the fact that what we have been talking the entire morning, what we have been talking about the entire morning, which is the importance and the immediacy of strengthening our political party system. Because as we have seen among the names mentioned, it's really about popularity. It's about name recall, it's about personalities, and not much about platforms, programs, and big ideas. So, good afternoon. I'm pleased to present to you this afternoon the 2023 survey of attitudes toward political parties and reforms in the Philippines, conducted by WR Numero under the auspices of Project Participate, with support from the British Embassy in Manila. So, by way of a background, this survey was inspired by a similar survey conducted way back in 2006 by the social weather stations under the auspices of the Ateneo School of Government, with support back then from the Conrad Adenauer Institute. So it's been decades since an honest-to-goodness, nationally represented survey was conducted to gauge the actual opinion of the public. And during our panel discussion, a lot of issues, a lot of observations, a lot of opinions were shared. But let's see empirically if really the public do have this perspective or views regarding politics in general and political parties in particular. So let me walk you through the major findings of the survey. First, I will talk about the public's familiarity about political parties. So it's really, well, it's half full, half empty, in the sense that among Filipinos, 68% are unfamiliar with anything that has to do with political parties. No? So among most Filipinos, around 68% are unfamiliar with political parties, while only a third or 32% express their familiarity. And by political parties, we use the definition provided by the proposed by Republic Act 7491, no? Which states that political parties are organized group of citizens advocating an ideology or platform, principles and policies for the general conduct of government, and which, as most immediate means of securing their adoption regularly, nominates and supports certain of its leader and members as candidates for public office. Now, who are the Filipinos who express familiarity with political parties? In terms of geographic location, the National Capital Region is the only area with more Filipinos expressing familiarity at 52%. However, this is only a marginal difference compared to those unfamiliar at 48%. Most Filipinos outside the NCR region, 77% in North Luzon, 66% in South Luzon, 64% in Visayas, and 74% in Mindanao are unfamiliar with political parties. No? So, if you notice in NCR, the gap between those who are familiar and unfamiliar is not that wide. But compared to the rest of the country, the gap between those who are familiar and unfamiliar is really quite wide. No? So, aside from NCR, South Luzon and Visayas are the next areas with a narrower gap between those familiar and unfamiliar. No? 30% versus North Luzon and Mindanao's 50%. We also found that a majority of Filipinos are unfamiliar with political parties in both urban and rural areas. No? Moreover, in urban areas, almost 40% of Filipinos are familiar. However, only marginally. Okay. In terms of familiarity on political parties per age group, while majority of those aged 18 to 24 years old are unfamiliar with political parties, they have also the narrowest gap between those familiar at 46% and unfamiliar. Okay? So while majority of the respondents are unfamiliar with the concept of party politics, among the youth sector, the gap between the familiar and unfamiliar is not that wide. No? Older Filipinos tend to be more unfamiliar than familiar with political parties. 2/3 are unfamiliar among those aged 46 to 65 years old, and around 85 unfamiliar among those aged 65 years old. Okay, so far the findings are not encouraging, no? But there is hope. No? Bear with me, please. I will show you the way. Okay, those who at least have senior high school at 45% and college units at 55% are found to be more familiar with political parties. However, a significant of them express unfamiliarity, 52% and 45%. The gap between those familiar and unfamiliar with political parties are the largest among those with no formal, 85 or 70% difference, elementary, 62% difference, and junior high school education. Okay. Now, if you notice the graph, no, education is a factor. No? If you notice, the more educated the respondent is, the more familiar he or she is with the concept of party politics. And those who have not attained much education. So the important point here is civic and voters engagement, or voters information, right? Or what we usually call voters education. Okay, so it is still important. And if I may say so, one important aspect here in terms of formal education is the reintroduction of the subject politics and governance at the college level, because it has been devolved into senior high school. So how can we think about civic culture and citizenship if the very course that's taught in most universities are no longer there? You know? So you only have a handful of subjects on civics and government. No? So I see the officers of the Philippine Political Science Association, and they've been lobbying for this. No? So that's one reason why we need to consider this. Okay, then regardless whether you are familiar or unfamiliar with the concept of political parties, the finding of the WR numero would say that the top media sources among Filipinos in both those familiar with political parties are TV, Facebook, online news, YouTube, and radio. No? If you will notice, no, Facebook has already overtaken, no, television, I think, no, in terms of or as equal television in terms of media usage, no, together with YouTube. So that is already the reality we are facing. We are already in the age of social media, and social media has become a critical arena for political engagement. No? Twitter, Instagram, and tabloid are found to be the least used media platform, at least according to this round of surveys conducted by WR numero. Now, top of mind, when we say political party, which group comes to mind? Interestingly, the group that comes into mind as a political party among Filipinos are the following: Liberal Party at 16%. There will be a lot of questions. I see the Executive Vice President of the Liberal Party grinning from ear to ear. So, but there's a reason for this, no? Both negative and positive, and we'll discuss this later in the open forum. And then, of course, the Unity, no? At 14%. So notice that most Filipinos are couldn't distinguish between parties and coalitions and alliances. So for them, Unity is a party, right? So, and the rest, no, the former presidents, PTP Laban at 7%, Tulfo endorsed, again, Tulfo, ACT-CIS at 5%, and Romualdez, Speaker Romualdez led Lakas CMD are those mentioned. And then followed by the Nationalista Party, Kabataan, and Pingo Party list. Okay. Now, the good news here is in a similar survey conducted by Pulse Asia in 2010, when asked, which political party do you identify with? 92% couldn't identify any political party. This was in 2010. Of course, it's a different survey, the framing of the question is different, but at least we can deduce. No? Back then, it was really dismal. Only 8% can actually identify political parties. But with this latest survey of WR Numero, it's at least we are getting double-digit numbers in terms of identification of political parties. Something to build, you know, something that can be used by the political parties. Now, trust in national political parties. Among those Filipinos unfamiliar with political parties, they have lower trust levels in national political parties. For unfamiliar Filipinos, PDP, Laban, and LP are most trusted at 38 and 36. Notice that we divide the findings of the survey between those who are familiar and unfamiliar. But no party was trusted by majority of unfamiliar Filipinos. Only PDP, Laban, and LP were trusted by majority of familiar Filipinos at 54 and 51. Again, there's a reason why these two parties are top of mind among the respondents. No? Later on, again, we will elaborate during the forum. Now, political party membership among Filipinos, almost all Filipinos are not members of political parties. However, and this is the light at the end of the tunnel, there is hope, no? Why? Around 20% are interested in being members of political parties. 20% still, no? Okay, pa rin yung 20%, no? So, analyzing Filipinos who are not members but interested in joining political parties per areas. Nasaan sila? Where are they, no? For Filipinos who are unfamiliar with political parties, most who are interested in joining political parties are in South Luzon, North Luzon, and Mindanao. Okay, so political parties start organizing your chapters and start recruiting in South Luzon, North Luzon, and Mindanao. For Filipinos who are familiar, half are in NCR, obviously, no, it has always been the case, and Mindanao, no, with the remainder located in North Luzon, South Luzon, and Visayas. Now, analyzing Filipinos who are not members but interested in joining political parties per sex or gender identification, men are slightly more interested in joining political parties than females, but the proportion of females who are interested in joining political parties is still large. Okay? We would have indicated those from the LGBTQIA, but we only got a handful of respondents, no, to make a difference in terms of percentage. Analyzing Filipinos who are not members of but interested in joining political parties per education, again, obviously, no, those who are highly educated would be interested in joining political parties. Do you know how to be a political party member? Obviously not. No? So a large number of respondents say no, but what would encourage, and this is the meat, the heart of our survey, what would encourage Filipinos to join a political party? The top qualities of political parties that would encourage Filipinos to join are: one, public service delivery. And this was discussed extensively this morning. Now, public service delivery can be both good or bad, positive, negative, right? Ideally, it's called constituency service. Those who are representatives would know this, right? Constituency service, if it's directed at your constituent in exchange for votes, is patronage. Now, if you give ayuda, no, you give all of these goodies and expect that the voters will support you in the next election, that's patronage. That's clientelism. But if you give without regard whether those who will receive these services are your supporters or not, then that is public service delivery, right? So there's nothing wrong if a representative would, use government funds to support his or her constituency, for as long as it is not in exchange for electoral support. Now, if you do constituency service without targeting your supporters, and as an appreciation, the constituents would support you, then that's good governance. Okay? So, anyways, that's not the survey, that's the reading of the survey. Okay, representation believes aligned with and faithful to the will of the members, and linkages. No? Of course, linkages here can be both positive and negative in terms of civil society linking with government, or ordinary citizens looking for somebody to help sponsor scholarship, and the likes. Okay? So, what would encourage Filipinos to join a political party? No? Now, contrary to popular beliefs, and again, this is actually a finding that gives hope, no? Because the respondent, at least for this round of survey, gives lesser important qualities, to peer endorsement, celebrity and church endorsement, amount of posters and streamers, and being part of the opposition. Okay? So contrary to conventional wisdom that voters are bobotante, or that they would blindly follow the leaders of the local political machine, they are actually thinking voters. They are rational voters, and they vote according to their conscience. Okay. For electoral behaviors and sentiments, the results show that there is little to no difference in their political attitudes, whether they are with political parties or not. At the barangay level, most Filipinos report deciding who to vote based on their personal knowledge of the candidates. Most Filipinos also tend to vote based on their conscience. However, it is also important to note that some vote for those who seem viable to win. So between winnability and voting according to their own choices or conscience, they would still pick their conscience vote over electoral winnability. Okay. Most Filipinos think that both the candidates and the party matter. This is consistent with the previous surveys conducted in the past. So again, this is an indicator, or this is an indication of the weakness of party identification or even party branding. Okay. Again, as mentioned earlier, since 2003, a political party development act has been introduced in Congress, and it has been passed every year since then, for the past 12 years. I would know because together with Louis Gia here, we were part of the young team back then, together with the late Chito Gascon, who participated in the all-party summit conducted together with Kong Erin, back then Clark, in 2003. And the all-party summit resulted in the introduction of the Political Party Development Act. Back then was introduced by none other than Speaker Jose de Venecia and Senate President Edgardo J. Angara. But that was 20 years ago. So Kong Louie and I have grown larger, and look at our hair, it's either receding or has turned white. So anyways, I will now pass the mic to my young colleague from the Ateneo School of Government, who will introduce to us a very novel index. And earlier, somebody from the panel already, I think Leon, no, already mentioned appetite, no? Diba? First yan. Appetite, no? Yan. Kaya ka lumalaki. So, we are introducing a new way of measuring the political appetite for reform and change. So I will now pass the mic to my young colleague here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pinati, for that intriguing presentation of results. For now, as we just delve into the appetite of political party reform, Mr. Kier Jesse Balyar, a research associate and statistician at the Ateneo Policy Center, the public policy think tank of Ateneo School of Government. He got his master's in science in the University of the Philippines, Diliman. His research interests include survey sampling, youth governance, statistical modeling, misinformation, democratization, and electoral violence.
So thank you, Ayo, for that introduction. And thank you also, Dean July, for discussing the sentiments of the Filipinos on the current political party system and also on their political attitudes. So this discussion naman, we will focus specifically on the sentiments of Filipinos on political party reform. And to do this, we will explore the concept of the appetite for political party reform. So in this study, we explored this concept through a series of statements. We have these 5 statements in our study. Essentially, I am satisfied with the current political party system. The current political party system in the Philippines is effective. The current political party system is good for the country, and that lawmakers should improve the current political party system, and that there should be changes in the current political party system. And after getting this, we conducted, and then we asked our respondents to rate their agreement based from 1, strongly disagree, to 4, agree. And then after this, we conducted factor analysis to basically explore the latent themes among these statements. Essentially, we wanted to see ano ba yung questions kung saan magkakamukha yung responses ng mga respondents natin. And from this factor analysis, we saw that appetite could essentially be decomposed into 2 indices. So the first measure, we call this one the satisfaction with current political party system. So the statements under this index are, I am satisfied with the current political party system. The current political party system is good for the country. That there should be changes in the current political party system. Now for the second measure, we call this one the desire for change with the current political party system. And the questions for this are that the current political party system in the Philippines is effective and that lawmakers should improve the current political party system. So now, we saw that essentially, appetite for political party reform can be decomposed into satisfaction and desire. Now we will look at the levels of satisfaction and levels of desire among Filipinos. So now, we see that for the satisfaction with the current political party system, we see that the satisfaction patterns between the familiar Filipinos and the unfamiliar Filipinos, medyo magkakamukha lang. And specifically, for the familiar Filipinos, the satisfaction levels are a little bit higher compared to those unfamiliar. For the unfamiliar Filipinos naman, we see specifically that a narrow majority agree that the current political party system is maganda para sa bayan. Pero, we also see that a proportion of those who are satisfied and think that the current political party system is effective is much lower. So, we see that one here. So, and this brings us to our next measure, the desire for change. So, essentially, we see that there is a very strong desire for change in our current political party system among Filipinos. Specifically, 70% of Filipinos unfamiliar with political parties think that lawmakers should improve and introduce changes to the current system. And for the familiar Filipinos naman, about 90% think that there should be changes and that there should be reforms to the current political party system. So what does this discussion tell us now? So from here, we can see that Filipinos probably recognize the importance of political parties in the Philippines, but they are not satisfied with its current implementation. They don't think that it's currently effective. So that's why we see this very strong desire for change among Filipinos. So Yun, and then as Dean July then mentioned earlier, political party reform has been going on now for about 20 years already. And in our study, we also explored the level of popularity naman on specific provisions of political party reform bills. So for now, we will focus on the financial support provision sentiments. Essentially, we asked our respondents, should private citizens give money up to 1,000 pesos? Should private citizens give money up to 1 million pesos? Should private citizens be allowed to give as much financial support as they want to political parties? And also, should private citizens be allowed to give anonymously to political parties? And we see here that a near majority of Filipinos think that private citizens should be allowed to give as much as they want to political parties, and that a majority of Filipinos also think that private citizens should be allowed to give anonymously to political parties. And for other sentiments naman on other financial issues, we see that a majority of Filipinos disagree with the idea that political parties should be allowed to spend as much as they want during elections, and that most Filipinos also think that political parties should give financial support to their constituents. So this one is actually linked to Dean July's results earlier, that one of the top reasons for people when wanting to join political parties is if they would implement projects in their area. So, yun. And then after this one, we will move on to another common provision naman in our political party reform bill, specifically the state subsidy fund. So the state subsidy fund aims to level the playing field among political parties by having the government contribute funds to political parties for party development. And we see here that for Filipinos na unfamiliar with political parties, 64% disagree with the concept of the state subsidy fund. Pero, familiar Filipinos, only 49% disagree with the concept of the state subsidy fund. So pag nadagdagan yung knowledge nila, medyo nag-lower ng konti yung disagreement level on the state subsidy fund. So, now then, we move on to another very common phenomenon in party politics. So now we explore the sentiments of political party switching among Filipinos. So essentially, in our survey, we asked our respondents, is political party switching usually bad, neither bad nor right, or is it always bad? And we saw that most Filipinos do not think that political party switching is always bad. They think that it is just usually bad and that it's also just neither bad nor right. But specifically, we see that the proportion of Filipinos familiar with political parties who feel that party switching is neither bad nor right is greater than those than the unfamiliar. And then here, we explore the punitiveness attitudes naman of Filipinos regarding political party switching. So here we presented our respondents a series of statements regarding possible punishments for those who switch parties. And we see that for Filipinos who are unfamiliar with political parties, about a quarter think that they should not be punished. About 11% said that they should be fined only. About a quarter said that they should lose their posts. And 34% feel that they should lose their posts and should have more punishments like disqualification or disqualification with fines. So we contrast this with the punitiveness attitudes naman of Filipinos who are familiar already with political parties. And we see that 20% of those familiar think that people who switch parties should not be punished. So this is a little bit lower compared to those in the unfamiliar. And then 9% think that they should be fined only. Again, this is lower compared to those in the unfamiliar. And about a quarter think that they should lose their post. So this is equivalent also to those in the unfamiliar. But we see that 44% of Filipinos familiar with political parties, they think that politicians who switch parties should lose their post and be punished more, like disqualification and disqualification with fines. So this is significantly greater compared to the people who are unfamiliar with political parties. So, yun. And then, generally, we see that Filipinos who are familiar with political parties are generally more punitive compared to those unfamiliar. And then in the study also, we also explored awareness levels naman of Filipinos on ongoing political party reforms in Congress. And this is what we saw. First, we saw that most Filipinos were not aware of ongoing legislative proposals to reform political parties. And we also saw that for familiar Filipinos, the proportion of those who were aware is slightly higher compared to those unfamiliar. And then after asking if they were aware of ongoing proposals, we specifically asked our respondents, were they aware of the Political Party Development Fund, Development Act? And unsurprisingly, we saw that most Filipinos were not aware of this act. In fact, even among the Filipinos who said that they were familiar with political parties, only 17% said that they were aware of the Political Party Development Act. So what does this discussion tell us? So this discussion shows us that Filipinos really do recognize the importance of having a political party system for the Philippines, but they are not necessarily satisfied and they don't think the current system is effective. That's why we see this very strong desire for change among Filipinos. And we also saw that there were several provisions in common political party reform bills that were already popular among Filipinos. So yun, but despite this, we see then that despite several provisions na popular, we see that most Filipinos were not aware of ongoing proposals in Congress to reform political parties. So that ends my discussion, and we now go back to Dean July for the conclusion. Thank you.
Okay, so by way of conclusion, we would like to identify four major points as implications for the future of political parties based on the sentiments that were reflected in this survey. First of all, we have seen that compared to previous survey results, there is a significant increase in Filipino familiarity with political parties. So this again underscores the need for greater effort from political parties and from civil society organizations and academia to help familiarize or popularize political parties among the public. Second, most Filipinos see the value of political parties in terms of public service delivery, representation, and linkages. Earlier, as part of the panel discussion, I think it was Attorney Aureus who mentioned, what is it for me? If we look at politics as not only the pursuit of political utility, the pursuit of victory, from the perspective of the voting public, there's always that question of what can the political parties do for us. And of course, representation and linkages, which can encourage them to join political parties. Filipinos see relatively lesser value in peer, celebrity, and church endorsement in joining political parties, if they decide to join political parties. In terms of electoral behavior and sentiments, the typical Filipino voter is not always influenced by machinery and money, not always, and most also vote based on their conscience. Lastly, Filipinos recognize the importance of the political party system, but they are not entirely satisfied with the current state, thus the strong desire for political party reform. So based on the findings of this survey, we can see some glimmer of hope if together we collaborate and we continue this work of strengthening, consolidating, and institutionalizing political parties and the political party system. With that, we end our presentation and we're looking forward to your questions during our open forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hanky. May we now call on stage Mr. Clive Arguelles and of course, Kier, for our panel discussion. Alam namin na marami kayong questions. So, prepare na po kayo dun sa mga gustong magtanong. Pero umpisahan ko na muna. Maybe start with Mr. Clive Arguelles. Siyempre, ang tanong ng marami, what is the difference between your surveys from bigger research firms such as SWS and Pulse Asia?
So we're building on the successes of SWS and Pulse Asia and other household names in the public opinion research industry. And we are proud to build on their successes. What we're innovating on is in terms of the new demographic groupings that we're introducing. So as I discussed kanina, now we can also look at the breakdown of our survey findings according to gender, according to partisanship, according to voter type. And we think that this kind of innovations will help many different actors, no? Whether you are in the electoral space, whether you are in the policy reform space, or whether academics, right? We should understand more about the social political attitudes of the Filipinos. And then the other thing, and I think the most important one, is that WR Numero is really led, operated, and managed by mostly political scientists and social scientists. So when we come together and design our survey questions, design how we want to program our public opinion research initiatives, a big part of consideration is that we want to develop our understanding on the political attitudes of the Filipinos. Kaya we're very focused on discovering new ways on how to figure out what Filipinos on the ground, ordinary Filipinos on the ground, think about big political issues. For example, yung March 2024 survey namin is currently ongoing, and we're also pioneering a new question on whether Filipinos identify themselves to be left-wing, right-wing, or centrist, and what kinds of policies do they identify as left-wing, right-wing, centrist, no? So this is new data, this is an innovation that we're introducing, and we will keep on doing this. Every quarter we're doing the survey, every quarter we're also introducing new questions, driven by our mission to further understand the social political attitudes of Filipinos. Thank you.
Yung next question natin for ni Happy siguro. Nabanggit niyo po kanina na Liberal Party was top of mind. Can you elaborate on that?
Okay. Yeah, when we were discussing the results of the survey, of course, it's not a surprise that LP and PDP Laban are up because for the past 6+ years, they've been at each other, on social media. So in previous surveys, the Liberal Party always scores higher in terms of name recall because it's the second oldest political party. But ironically, the oldest political party usually wouldn't score as high, and that is the Nacionalista Party. So LP has consistently been on the radar screen of the Filipino voters. And it's actually both positive and negative because, of course, we all know that one of the reasons why the PDP Laban emerged under the presidency of former President Rodrigo Duterte was because it was at the expense of the Liberal Party online, right? So during the rise of the critical rise of social media in politics as both the arena and the weapon of engaging in politics, the LP has been both portrayed negatively and positively by its supporters. So, because of that, palagi siya nasa top of mind. So, pag sinabi mong dilaw, LP, right? So, yun. So that's one explanation. So, the rise of hyperpolarization in our politics, no, has also led to the unintended consequence of both brands, LP and PPP, being ingrained in the mind of the voting public.
I think we can allow questions from our participants. Yes, sir.
Hours to go.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate
Mike po.
But this is a point of clarification here for the familiarity. It's already alarming that 60% is unfamiliar. That's okay, because you have the job to do. Familiarity means what are the ethics? Name of the party, people behind the party or condemn. Does it include that? Alam mo yung partido, halimbawa, dahil
Hanggang ano oras?
LP ako dati, kami ni
Pupunta ako kay
LP because of the names, no? PDP Laban because
Sulat na ako for Manila
coalition. Pero yung content ba, kasama dun sa pamilya sa 30%? Kasi content importante. We are all building political parties. And content, platform,
Substance, no?
substance,
Right.
importante sa akin as
Yes.
a member of a political party.
Well, yeah. So in previous surveys, no, especially those conducted in 2004 and 2006, by ASO, there were questions regarding what name comes to mind when this political party is mentioned. So if you say, Pwersa ng Masang Pilipino, Hermes Estrada. So we did not include that question in this round. But hopefully, if we get another round of funding, I see a Ian box here. So we will be able to run that survey. So, and then we will be able to probe deeper into what attracts the typical Filipino voter to this political parties. Familiarity is simply top of mind. And again, it's already significant because if I mentioned the 2010 Pulse Asia survey, 92% cannot identify with a party. And at least in this survey, 60+% can identify a party. So that's already a big development.
Any questions from the participants?
Follow-up.
Parang mojo lang to.
Kasi lumabas na sa akin yung survey.
Yes.
Pinapan.
Yes.
Ay, 1 July, kasama tayo.
Nakasama tayo.
You remember that the PDP Laban
Yes.
platform came out of EDSA, and there were
Yes.
personalities.
Yes.
Kaya siguro, maganda rin ang ating writings. That has to be rechecked in your future scientific research. Kasi, para naman tumaas yung unfamiliar. Yung unfamiliar nakakatakot 68% unfamiliar. Mas nakakatakot yung 30% na familiar pero walang substance.
Right.
Yun ang pwede mag-switch. Thank you, sir.
So, yan po ang trabaho ng Workers' Party. Kasi hindi kaya magbigay ng sustansya sa ating politika.
Any
Yes, Christian.
Kaya nagkakaroon ng tama. May best so, tama.
Talk about there was a consideration of a baseline knowledge of the respondents as to how they manage the political parties. Or the political parties. Kasi baka hindi malinaw sa lahat eh. They might be looking at a different animal.
So thank you, Sir Christian, for that question. So to clarify, in our questionnaire, before we asked our respondents if familiar ba sila with the concept of political parties, we also added this preamble and introduction at the very beginning. So we defined what political parties are. Essentially, they're organized group of people to advance their interests. So parang we got po yung sa party list na ako na introduction, and then we put that in the questionnaire. And then we let our respondents read that before they answer the familiarity question. So yun po yung framing namin.
Yeah, and I think precisely the design that we want to also capture. We know that in the questions that we've asked, some of the questions, they may not be thinking about political parties at all. They may be thinking about halimbawa, political families, political dynasties, right? But we want to capture as well parang the raw responses that they can provide rather than really structuring. Maybe in the next survey, we will parang medyo formalize the structure that you have to understand what political parties are before we can ask you about your preferences. But at least in this case, the design is to also get an idea among our ordinary voters what they think about when we ask questions about this. Kaya if you see the results on the what party or groups come to your mind, if you hear the word political party, some of it are party lists, some of it are national parties, some of it are actually just organizations. Anak Bayan, for example, is there. It's not a party nor a party list, right? It's just an organization. Yeah, so we want that seen in this particular survey.
And there are two actually positive trends, and I call it positive in the sense that in the past, respondents could not even identify a party, but they would mention a politician, right? Partido ni Noy Noy, Partido ni Villar. No? At least now, in most of the respondents can actually name a political party. And second, half of the names of the parties that were mentioned by the respondents are party list organizations. So it's both good and bad. Good in the sense that the party list system is already ingrained in the public mind, in the voters' mind. But it's also scary because we all know that the party list system has been co-opted by particularistic interests, to say the least.
We are entertaining another question. Yes, the lady from the back, please approach the mic, please. And introduce yourself.
Hello po, magandang hapon. I'm Kyla from Bayan Youth, the youth wing of a Bayan Party. Yung question ko po ay may comparative analysis ba doon sa previous data and the latest data. Halimbawa doon kay sa ranking ni Sara Duterte, ni Rodrigo Duterte, and Marcos Jr. Kumbaga, mas tumaas na ito from their previous ranking or mas bumababa? And second ay, tingin niyo po ba may epekto yung political issues sa kanila to their rankings? So for example, the confidential funds to Sara Duterte, the Kibuloy's ngayon to Sara and Duterte family. Thank you.
So, thank you. We look forward to getting new data from our currently ongoing March 2024 survey para makapag-start tayo ng comparison. For example, on the performance of potential Senate candidates and the popularity of the Vice President as well as the President. That's also the same response that I will say doon sa question of whether the confidential funds and other issues has affected. Did this make the Vice President more unpopular or otherwise? But what I can share with you also is that in our December 2023 survey, we did already ask whether so that time pinag-uusapan, confidential funds was being talked about. We asked Filipino respondents whether they think the Congress should allot confidential funds to the office of the Vice President. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure that it's more than a majority, but now I can't remember whether it's 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, but it's around that number. So it's high, saying that Congress should provide confidential funds to the OVP. So now we will see in the March 2024 whether that preference changed given all the developments for the past months so far. Yeah, and the last thing I want to say also is that Sa Senate, also I think,
Alam naman.
hindi yung mga previous surveys by our other counterparts ng mga polling organizations, I think hindi ba nasasama si Digong. So yun din yung challenge ng pre-election surveys, di ba? The names might not be comparable from one survey to another because there's no ballot yet, right? So medyo mas discussion pa lang ng mga internal polling organizations who to include. So yun, so interesting to see whether removing Digong, adding Digong back, or certain permutations of names will give us a different type of ranking. So thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, the gentleman from.
Good afternoon po, Red dito sa Manila Times. Doc, I'd like to ask na po muna yung dun sa political party survey. How many ang na-ask po dun sa survey na yun? Just to, yung ano po, yung sample size po. Kasi po ba dun sa WR dun po survey? So it was commissioned dito at the same time the survey was done.
Yes. So the party survey was conducted at the same time as the public opinion monitor. So it's the sampling is 1,457.
Okay, siguro last question na rin po. Kasi nakita ko nga rin po dito sa data na to kasi nga, yun nga, we mostly see the LP, yun nga po, the unity hindi po siya in-specify as a single, hindi po siya in-specify as single party kasi the public view unity as the party. So, what can you say about this po? Kasi parang sinasabi nila natin na parang mas nag-iistik po yata yung mga coalition instead of a single party. Nakikita niyo rin po ba yun, Doc?
That has been the trend since 1992. So what we are seeing actually is the institutionalization of party coalitions instead of specific political parties. Because of the nature of our multi-party system, no single party can win a majority under a presidential form of government. So ang nangyayari, nagko-coalesce. But the basis of the coalition is not program of government or platform, but rather who wins the presidency. And that's what some political scientists call presidential bandwagon. Because you may be a party, a Volkswagen party, right? Action. So you may be a Volkswagen party, but if your man becomes president, then you will become the presidential party, and everyone will jump into action. So that's been the trend.
Kasi ito, final question na lang. Kasi of course, coalitions are not that bad naman. I mean,
Of course.
sa ibang bansa naman may mga coalition parties.
Right.
I mean, sa Australia nga, we have
Yes.
the liberal.
The point is, Red, actually, coalition, in fact, I'm pushing for more coalition, but the coalition should be based on actual program of government, just like what we see in other countries. So, like for example, in Indonesia, you don't see individual politicians jumping from one party to another, but you see an entire political party jumping from one coalition to another, right? Those who were with Chubowi is no longer Chubowi, right? So they jump from one coalition. But these are entire political parties shifting alliances. Hindi yung isa-isang politiko, no, palit lang ng party.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, lady from the back. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Phoebe from the Ateneo Assembly. We're the home org of Ateneo Poli-Sci majors. I'd just like to ask, so historically, in public preference surveys, non-opposition candidates yung lumalamang. And considering that surveys can usually preemptively narrow the competition from the perspective of the voters, how much of an impact does the recent survey earlier have on the opposition this coming election? And in light of that, what do you think should be done in preparation for 2025?
Thank you. Go Paul. Well, 2028 is still quite far from now. No? Actually, one of the interesting developments is that paaga ng paaga yung presidential preference survey. someone has to study that and someone needs to understand why that is also happening. So I think there's a lot that can happen between December 2023, the survey, and 2028. I don't think that it says that the story is already over. In fact, if you will look at the presidential election survey, the belief, right, the numbers are not comfortable for whoever is leading, right? Whether it's Sara Duterte as the president or Grace Vo as potential VP candidate, it's not a comfortable lead. I think also if we go back, for example, to how Rodrigo Duterte performed in the surveys, until 2015, until early 2016, he isn't the top choice in most of the surveys, right? It was later on na nakaka. So I think there's a chance that the story here might change. What is good and what is, I think, our contribution to public conversations like this is, of course, we will keep measuring public attitudes. Because otherwise, my fear, kasi laging sinasabi, oh, my conditioning sa survey, my fear is that if we're not scientifically properly measuring public opinion from time to time, what is left in the public space ay propaganda and partisan na claims, right? I am leading, X is leading, Y is leading. We don't know that, right? Here we know, and if someone wants to change the story, then they have the data to be able to do that. Thank you.
And the trend since the post-EDSA, for the post-EDSA presidential election is that in the past three electoral cycles, what we have is what we call in the political science field as the black swan events. No? Like nobody expected Noynoy Aquino to become president, nobody expected Duterte to become president, and of course, we did not expect the second coming of the Marcoses, right? So, really, it's too early to say, but the surveys are there to help us navigate strategy, tactic, preparation. Like, if I remember correctly, before the 2010 presidential election, those who were topping the surveys were Noli Castro, Manny Villar, and then later on, Mar Rojas, etc. And then and then of course the same happened for 2016 with Binay leading the pack, for 2 years, then Risco, and then suddenly Duterte. And then of course the story of the last election, Yorme, everybody was saying Yorme would become president until the unity happened. So it ain't over until.
Last question for Mr. T. Are there studies or research being done about the voting behavior of the Gen Z or Gen Z Alphas? Kasi syempre sila yung growing number of voters in the 2025 and the 2028 election. And then for Titi Happy, you know that the Gen Zs are super loyal with their K-pop idols. How do you think can we use that or yung mga political parties natin to their advantage na i-adopt yung K-pop strategy para ma-encourage yung youth to participate in governance?
The president of the Philippine Political Science Association.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm John Robert Paul. I'm the president of the Philippine Political Science Association and associate professor of political science at UP Diliman. My question is, it's just a curiosity because we're talking about promoting political parties, and yet when we ask public opinion, we heavily focus on individuals, like who, specific individuals, without talking about their party affiliations, maybe because they're shifting parties. I don't know, but probably it's reinforcing the mentality that probably parties are secondary and we just focus on the individual politicians instead. Yeah, so that's my curiosity. Thank you.
So there's no question wrong. No? It's your takeaway, right?
But probably you can give an insight about that.
Yeah. So again, nowadays we talk about branding. So we treat parties as if it's like a brand, right? And brand can be either the leader of the party, the face of the party, or the idea behind the party. So it can be like Batman, it's an idea. Now, Hector, outrageous. So it is an idea. No? So if you are if you are in charge of a political party, what is your big idea? What is your narrative? No? What can you offer? Do you offer your party leader, the story of your party leader? Diba? Diba? Yung ano ba, rags to riches ba yan? Or magaling ba yung party? Or you shift your focus to ideas. Yung sinasabi ni Attorney Aureos na dream big for the Filipinos. What can you dream for the Filipinos? So yun, again, it's a choice. No? We always speak of structure and agency. No? Even political parties have its own agency because it's composed of individuals with their own separate. So it's their choice what story they will believe and what narrative they will tell the public.
Quickly on that, I think methodologically, just methodologically speaking, the purpose of the pre-election surveys has something to do with, parang particularly yung kanyang function is to gauge public preferences on on candidates, no, on election candidates. So that means that the attempt is to mirror how, di ba parang usually pa nga the attempt is to mirror how they will answer an actual election ballot. So if it's names in the ballot, pero parang if our political system doesn't privilege parties, right, but rather names of the candidates, it would also be hard to for pollsters to do that. But what I think is that we can experiment on that, and I think we'll try to experiment on using parties. We'll see if that's something that will produce something more insightful. Because I know that in other countries, where prominent yung party names that the candidate names, for example, Thailand, then the posters will just ask for your party preference, right? So then, so we will experiment on that. In July, we'll look for the funder for us to be able to do this absurd experiment. And then the question on the Gen Zs, good question. Of course, they're part of our survey on the young population. But I also think that it's been quite a while since we've had a nationally representative survey focused on young people. I know that the Asia Foundation on youth-led did the survey, but that's also medyo updated na. So it will also be a good idea to get actual preferences, attitudes, perspectives of young people nowadays, especially when it comes to these particular issues as well. Thank you.
And it's also a function kasi of electoral system design, the way our electoral system is structured. No? Since we're under a winner-take-all single seat majority system, so the focus really is on individuals, individual candidates, as opposed to if you are on a proportional representation system in which the focus really is on parties. And parties, the name of the parties, the leader of the party, and the membership into a political party are the more important elements. No? That's the reason why in most parliamentary system, you only see the symbol of the party and not the individual party members. No? So that's why. Dun sa tanong ng K-pop BTS, no? Of course, no, it's the similar effect on the generation of the millennials and Taylor Swift. No? So yung Swifties no? Again, whether that's good or bad, no? It's pop culture. It's a power of pop culture. It's the combination of the power of pop culture and social media coming together as a proxy, if I may say so, for actual party organizing. Because most surveys, especially in Asia Barometer survey, would point that even the younger generations are not that involved already or interested in parties. No? So they find alternatives, like especially during the pandemic, the Swifties, the BTS Army, and the likes. And of course, you have that incident in the United States when the Trumps, the Magas went on a rally, and then the BTS sort of disrupted that. So, but that can work both ways. It can be good, it can be bad. Because what if you get skinheads,
K-pop,
punkers, di ba? Na fascist naman, with the right. So, medyo delikado. So, yeah. But it's something that the parties should harness, something that the parties should invest in, and part of the organizing is really reaching out to these groups.
Kasi syempre dito, yung mga K-pop fans, talagang make sure nila na magsasacrifice sila ng time, effort, money, makakuha lang ng merch, maka-attend ng concert. Siguro, opportunity din for the political parties to harness that para makakuha rin sila ng supporters.
Yeah. This is what I call the new constituencies. Ito yung mga bagong constituencies sa mga botante, lalo na sa GNC. I remember we had a conversation, all the pet lovers can be constituency. In fact, all the fur parents can form their own parties.
For parents.
Para sa free healthcare moments. But kung wala naman tayong questions, we're now closing our second panel discussion this afternoon. Thank you very much
Thank you.
panelists for this insightful discussion. We will now proceed to our next part of the program.
Subukan mo maglagay ng politiko doon sa concert. Ibubuya. Ibubuya. Ay, sa basketball. Marami din. Si Trillanes na natakbo mayor ng hindi ko na.
Sino ang sabi ko?
Good afternoon. Before we continue with the program, we would like to acknowledge the presence of Chairperson George Erwin Garcia of the Commission of Elections.
Saan? Ayun.
We now welcome you to the closing ceremony and the graduation of the Academy of Multi-Party Democracy. Let us begin by showing some highlights of the Academy. The ADP.
Ano yung bibenta mo? Bibenta mo?
Alin?
Bibenta mo?
Hindi yung market namin sa
Ah.
Sa politika ng Pilipinas, hindi madaling magsama-sama. Pero naman,
Oo nga pala, no?
tapos gusto hanggang 3, ay pag-ikasama ng party.
Yan na ba yan?
Na nakaharap mo, pwede.
Ayun na pala yun. Ano wala yung 8? Ako, mahilig yung video. Ako pa naman nandun sa video.
Para sa pagbabago at kaunlaran.
Mga ba yan?
Iba-iba man, nagawa ng participate sa unang hakbang para magkaroon ng iisang tuluhin ang mga
Pati ko lang meron yan.
para sa iisang direksyon. Napaon na rin ang politika.
Sila wala, no?
Maraming salamat at mabuhay participate sa Lulus 1 hanggang 8.
Kasi kasama ka pa dito, no?
This idea of organizing democracy is one of the more vibrant projects of this country and of the group. I'm evident particularly in participating in the show that we had. Because indeed, the political mess that we have in the political parties, I believe that this particular platform will make sure that the entire direction of the formation of the political parties can be. It's not going to be easy as I believe, but we need to support this group moving forward to be able to contribute to a lively democracy in this country.
we learned in the Greenwood what kind of government system and political party system we have in our country. And also, it enlightened us the movements involved in the political party in our country and the usage of advanced technology of social media and the AI to enhance our source in our party. If anyone from any political party as a member would know how it's like in our inside the party.
Nakikita ko lagi yan. Nakikita ko lagi yan.
Having a multi-party democracy. It's the process that I came here to meet as many, without jumping party, from members from other organizations such as ours. So what I would like to brag about is particular academy that I was able to sign up for.
Dapat sinama mo din po.
Experience, parang feeling. Kasi otherwise you will be for random events to get to rock and roll with other people from different parties. And yet this is academy.
Kaibigan naman yun eh. Kaibigan yun eh.
Effortlessly, we get to make friendships with people subscribing to the same ideological
Sabi ni Boss, wala akong utang na loob na plan.
Participate in graduations and we hope this is the start of something very animated and continuously happening. I think offering this to people na madami pa kami kasi this is something once in a lifetime experience. You should never miss out.
Kami mula sa katulong ng nagkakaisang Pilipino ay nagpapasalamat sa experience na ibinigay na participate. Wala module 1, 2, and 3. Marami kami natutunan at hopefully may apply namin yun sa pag-organisa at pag-structure ng aming organisasyon. And hopefully din makapatuloy ng participation ng advocacy na ma-promote ang political integrity sa ating bansa.
November, December, tatlong November, December.
So first time ito na nag-aral sabay, so dapat tuloy-tuloy. Kung pwede lang,
May mga telepo na
kung pwede lang,
sunod sa sa outlaw.
Una-una, kailangan ko na magpasalamat sa participate. Lalong-lalo na sa pumupuno po ng party in chief, si Sir Dean July Haki. Nation building is a contact sport. And it's a contact team sport. Dahil po sa participate, pinagsama-sama yung different elements of political parties, of different backgrounds. At tinuruan po how to play the sport in a better way for country for all. So, kailangan ko lang po ulitin aking pagpapasalamat at pagpapasalamat po namin sa mga nag-organisa dito sa participate.
To tell us more about the Academy, please welcome Participate Chief of Party, Dr. Julio Tihan.
Thank you. Political parties play an important role in an electoral democracy. Parties are the critical element in strengthening democracy. A weak political party system often leads to a weak democracy. And as I've said earlier, the Philippines takes pride in being the oldest democracy in Southeast Asia. But despite over a century of party politics, a history of four-party system, and a multitude of political parties, we lack institutionalized political parties. As of 2022, and this is the latest figure, there are 174 national, regional, and local political parties in the country. There are also 177 party list organizations. The grand total is 351 political parties. And the average number of political parties in the entire Southeast Asian region is around 50. And yet we have 351. Now, the political participation for greater electoral integrity or participate, a consortium between the Ateneo School of Government, the LaSalle Institute of Governance, the National Citizens Movement for Free Election, and the Caucus of Development NGO Networks has initiated and launched the Academy of Multi-Party Democracy, a unique project because it is the very first school of, for, and by political parties in the country. And it is a school that is offered to all political parties who are interested in truly strengthening their party organization. The Academy has recently completed its training of the first batch, and we are very proud of the pilot batch, batch 1 of the Academy. Those who were able to complete all the 3 modules, we will now recognize this afternoon, and we are really, really proud of what they have accomplished in the past 3 modules. The 3 modules, the first module allowed us to navigate the political party system in a number of consolidated democracies before we look into the case of the Philippines. The second module focused on internal party organization, operations, and management. And the third module tackled political marketing, communication, and the use of technology. The Academy of Multi-Party Democracy, after its 3 module, has taken a first step in a long and arduous journey, but through our collective efforts and the continuing support of our partners, other members of the Academy, members of civil society, and our key partner in the Commission on Election, and of course, our generous donors who are helping us in promoting democracy in this part of the region. We will hopefully succeed in finally consolidating and strengthening the democracy such that this democracy will serve the interests of all the Filipino people. Thank you very much, and congratulations to the graduates of the first batch of the Academy of Multi-Party Democracy.
Collaborative scheme.
This time, one of our participants, someone who has completed all 3 modules of our Academy, will share with us the experience, the importance, and some reflections on the value of the Academy in shaping and institutionalizing political parties. We would like to call on Attorney Vincent Noel Oris, Executive Director of Partido.
Hello, Comelec Chairperson, Honorable George Garcia, United Kingdom Political Counselor to the Philippines, Honorable Ian Cox, participates Chief of Party, Professor Julio Tihanki, distinguished officers and members of Participate political parties and partner organizations, classmates to the first ever Academy of Multi-Party Democracy, friends from the media and everybody here today, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. It is said that while indispensable, hope ultimately is not a strategy. And hope without strategy is the absence of any workable blueprint for victory. It is the surest recipe for defeat. With this in mind, please do allow me to share with you a short story. This is a tale about a land of promise, a land full of resources and wonderful people, and yet, despite all of that, it curiously remained destitute and poor. The tragic situation in that place was brought about by the existence of an ogre who lived high on top of a mountain. Now what happened next is this. Two brothers from the lowlands decided they had to do something about the situation. And so they planned to challenge the ogre. They would confront it, fight it, and they will end the status quo and change it for the better in the service of the people. The older brother was the first to journey and climb that mountain. But he did not, however, return and everything remained as is. The younger brother, after several years, decided it was his turn. So he climbed the mountain and surprisingly, upon finding the ogre, he was able to confront, challenge, and deliver a most fatal blow. As the ogre began to die, its face changed. The face of the long-lost brother transformed into the face of the ogre transformed into the face of the long-lost brother. And he had parting words to share. He said, "Brother, it's easy to kill the ogre. It's hard not to become the ogre afterwards." And this, my friends, is the constant Greek tragedy, the so-called fault in the stars of the driven, the passionate, and the determined. Who should they strike lucky then find themselves not knowing what to do afterwards with victory? You may ask, why don't they know? And the answer is actually quite simple. The capacity to sustainably pursue reforms aligned with the North Star to improve and progress the well-being of the Commonwealth is unfortunately not there. This is the story of a land called, do you know what this place is called? It's called the Philippines. And this is the reason why Participate is very important with its program to develop the capacity of political parties as the vanguards of genuine democratic representation in a country with weak representation such as ours. What Participate is doing is not just hope without a strategy. What Participate is both hope and strategy, and there lies the fundamental difference. It recognizes the difficulties that our country must confront, and it knows that the best and brightest talents of political parties, many of whom are present here today, must be capable to do what must be done when it's their turn to enjoy the fruits of eventual political victory. Sir Winston Churchill, a recognized statesman who rallied his people during the darkest times of the Second World War, once said, "To each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing, unique to them and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unqualified or unprepared for that which could have been their finest hour." Ladies and gentlemen, fellow graduates of Participate's Academy, as certain as the sun will rise and the sun will set, our time will come. History will figuratively tap us on the shoulder and ask us to do a very special thing for ourselves, our loved ones, and our nation. And thanks to Participate, we will neither be caught unprepared or unqualified, and we will be in the best position despite the odds, despite the many heartaches, and despite the many, many hurts along the way, to turn that moment into our finest hour. My friends, let us continue the journey and climb those mountains. Together, let us find or build a way forward. Thank you, good afternoon, and may the coming of a new dawn, guided by the hands of divine providence, bless us all.
Senator, let's go.
Thank you, Attorney Arias, for your welcome out and honest sharing. Now, to give us a special message on this very important occasion, he is a strong supporter to participate, including the Academy. Let us welcome Chairperson George Erwin Garcia of the Commission on Elections.
Kasama ba sa ano? Kasama sa speech?
Salamat po sa inyo lahat. Good afternoon to everyone. To all the political parties present right now to participate, congratulations. Congratulations din po. Sir Attorney Arias, congratulations. Reforma family, the PDSP family, the Liberal Party family, the Action Democratico family. And practically there are actually 16 political parties present right now. And party list meron din po. And medyo kasi kaya ako kakilala lang, napuntahan ko lahat yung political parties. So I'm very, very glad of delivering a very short message to you. Alam niyo po, the relevant question would really be, are political parties still relevant today? I know, di-discuss ko po kanina, but may question pa rin si Secretary Robert, sabi niya, but how do you increase the awareness of people as far as political parties are concerned? And it should now be the role of participate and the academy. How to increase that level of awareness as far as our people are concerned. Nakakalungkot. Whenever a political party will come to the Comelec and file a petition for accreditation, and you will look into the platform of government, the ideas by which this political party is being established. Pag binasa niyo po, at sana po walang matamaan, pag binasa niyo po, paulit-ulit same wordings, kinopya lang sa other political parties. That is really the situation right now. And so, as far as the Comelec is concerned, our rules specifically provides only for certain requirements, so long as you have the party platform, so long as you have the membership, so long as perhaps you have a little money. You can already establish a political party. Under Rule 32 of the Comelec Rules of Procedure is quite easy to establish a political party. But the point is, easy to establish political party, but difficult to manage the same. You see, in the Comelec right now, we have several cases involving intra-party dispute. That's the question. Bakit nagkakaroon po ng ganon? Hindi po masama-sama kayo sa isang ideya, sama-sama po kayo sa isang idealismo at pagkatapos, why the intra-party dispute? Why the Comelec to resolve your intra-party struggles? Bakit kinakailangan papasok kami, kayo nag-aaway, damay kami? And then, when the Comelec decided one group, how the political parties will perform, how the political parties will act during the election. But political parties should not only be there during the election. The political parties must exist even without the election. And so therefore, I would like to ask all political parties to not only support the Comelec, but I would like you to ask to support certain initiatives such as amendment of our election laws. Try to imagine, I've been here and participated several times. I've been asking, calling, requesting, pleading political parties, candidates, and practically everyone. Help the Comelec pursue revision of our election code. Nauna pa po yung election code ng Bangsamoro. Yung election code na pinapatupad ng Comelec, 1985, December 5. And practically po yung lahat kayo ng political parties na nandito and party list, kumikilos tayo under the December 5, 1985 election law. Pag may problem, may batas ng pambansa pa yung nakalagay doon. Pag may problem, we will always refer to the election code and then sasabihin nyo sa amin, bakit kasi ganito? Bakit wala na po prosecute? Bakit wala tayo po prosecute sa vote buying? Bakit wala tayo po prosecute sa maling paggamit ng gobyerno, ng pera? Because the law until today has not been amended or revised. I think political parties present right now, political parties not present right now in this venue should bind together and have the commission election to to amend our laws. We have to ask our congressmen, our senators. Isipin niyo po yung political party finance. Isipin niyo po yung issue ng expenditure. 3 pesos, 5 pesos, 10 pesos. Sasabihin niyo sa akin, bakit hanggang ngayon 3 pesos, 5 pesos? Wala magagawa ang COMELEC. Because whatever is submitted to us, we will just apply the 3 pesos, 5 pesos, and 10 pesos rule. Na hanggang ngayon po, hindi na re-revise o na-amend. And then the party list law, Republic Act 7941. People are blaming the, why are you always accrediting party list which party lists are not even existing, or party list na wala namang kwenta at hindi naman nagre-represent ang marginalized or underrepresented. The Constitution, under Article 6, Section 5 provides that 20% of the membership of the House of Representatives must belong to the party list system. That's very clear. Belonging to the marginalized and underrepresented. But however, in the earlier case decided by the Supreme Court said that for purposes of becoming a member of Congress under the party list system, you cannot be a resident of the gated community of Dasmariñas Village as well as the Forest Park. That was the earlier decision. But here comes another decision, the Supreme Court reversing the earlier decision and said you must not be wallowing in poverty just to represent the marginalized and the underrepresented sector. It is enough that you have the advocacy to represent that particular sector. Try to imagine, there is a difference between one who is really part of the marginalized sector and one who is really just mere supporter of a marginalized sector. Kaya po, hirap na hirap ang COMELEC. Here comes a list submitted to the commission. List of 10 na nga po. List of 10 nominees of the party list. After the election, the entire nominees as listed will resign. 1, may nagkasakit. 2, wala lang, personal. 3, kung anong dahilan. And then here comes a new list coming from that party list. A list which were never made public even before the election. So but what can the COMELEC do? The provision of 7941 provides that in that case, the COMELEC will just accept the new set of nominees as may be proposed and provided for by the party list. We cannot interfere or intervene doon sa mga party list na yun. Isipin niyo pong problem. And then masisisi po kami, bakit nagkaroon ng palitan? Eh yung po lahat nakalagay sa batas eh. Nasabi po basta naubusan ng list, naubusan ng mga nominees, then they will have to submit the new list to the commission on election. It is an internal matter on the part of the commission, or on the part of the party list or the organizations. You see, we have a problem. The problem will have to originate from the law itself. So again, I would like to respectfully request the members of our political parties, the officials of the political parties, help the COMELEC in encouraging our members of Congress to amend the antiquated laws that we have. The party list law, the omnibus election code, and but more particularly, help the COMELEC also in the implementation of the election code of the Bangsamoro for the 2025 elections. It's very, very important. It's really one of the advocacies of participate. You see, ito po yung kauna-unang pagkakataon that we are going to conduct parliamentary election in the Bangsamoro. And I can predict with all honesty that it's problematic. The election in the Bangsamoro will be very, very problematic. We are going to use 2 ballots, 2 sets of ballots. 1 ballot for the national and local, and 1 ballot for the parliamentary election. And we are going to accredit political parties, regional political parties in the Bangsamoro to participate in the Bangsamoro election. It's very problematic. And so, I hope that the political parties present right now can likewise also have the commission in information dissemination and education of our people on how our Muslim brothers and sisters and Christians in the Bangsamoro will vote on election day in the Bangsamoro. Napakahirap po. Madaming problema. We have political families. We have the transitory government in the Bangsamoro. And therefore, the COMELEC will be placed at the middle But of course, that is our role in order to ensure an honest and credible election in the Bangsamoro. And in conclusion, again, I would like to congratulate participants. I would like to congratulate the members of and officials of political parties. Maraming salamat po sa patuloy niyong pagtitiwala sa inyong commission on elections. And we're hoping that whenever you are to push for reforms in our election laws, pakisama niyo na rin po yung substitution of candidates. Hirap na po ang COMELEC sa issue ng substitution of candidates. Bigla na lang po may nag-withdraw, bigla na lang po may nag-resign, pagkatapos may bagong kandidato, same family name. O kaya naman yung kandidato, wala naman originally talaga doon sa sinabit na CONA. And so, that is again problematic. But gatherings like this is a sign that we are becoming mature. Our party system, as well as political party system, are practically becoming mature simply because you are here. You are here to contribute something to the betterment of our democracy. And our commitment to the entire nation is that you can trust the COMELEC to hold a credible, honest election, not only in 2025, but in the election yet to come. Alam niyo po, isa na lang po, pasensya na, I'm going to advertise. Your commission election is going to conduct the first in our history internet voting for our overseas Filipinos. First po yun. We have not conducted such mode voting overseas. And you know why? You know why the COMELEC ventured on internet voting? In 2022, we have the highest voters turnout for overseas voting. 40.59%, highest in the history of overseas voting. 40.59%. Hindi pa po naka 50%. And yet we spent 500 million for 2 modes of voting. Voting by mail and in-person voting. Ayaw po pumunta ng mga kababayan natin sa emphasis, sa consulate. Pinapadala natin ng envelopes na naglalaro ng balota. Ayaw naman i-accomplish, ayaw ibabalik. Kahit libre po yung postage. And you know what? We were able to have only 1.697 million registered voters abroad. Eh, hindi naman po 1.697 million lang ang mga Pilipinos abroad. Mga 12 to 15 million, and yet we only have 1.697, maybe because ayaw talaga din ang bumoto because of the 2 votes. That's why we decided to look into the law, and the law provides that the COMELEC can venture on any other mode or modes of voting overseas. Nakita natin ang internet voting. However, the issue will always be the credibility of the results and the security of the program or the system that we are going to use. If we are going to be very successful, if we are able to increase the number of voters from 1.697 to at least 3 million voters overseas, and more than 50% will vote, then and it will become successful, perhaps in the near future we can use internet voting likewise here in our country, domestically. We can allow the elderly, the PWDs, the heavily pregnant women to vote using the internet. And therefore, sana po tulungan niyo kami na maikalat natin yung balitang yung kasama po ang more voting. We're going to have more voting nationwide, and we're going to allow the senior citizens to vote exclusively, and the PWDs exclusively 5 to 7 on election day in the morning. Sa kanila lang po yung pagboto niya para mas makaboto sila nang hindi kasabay ng kalabihan. We are going to innovate. We are going to change the rules. We are conducting the election in our country. Again, thank you very, very much for my
Thank you, Professor. May we request you to remain on stage as we call on Dr. Julio Tihaki to join you as we present appreciation tokens to Chair Garcia in gratitude for his unwavering support of the Participate Consortium. Chair Garcia and Dr. Tihaki, kindly remain on stage for the awarding of certificates to those who are able to complete modules 1 to 3 of the Academy of Multi-Party Democracy. May we also call on Mr. Ian Cox, Political Counselor of the British Embassy Manila, to also be one of those who will award the certificates. As announced earlier, the British Embassy Manila is the participate partner in developing and organizing the Academy. And now we would like to call on the graduates. Mr. Aureus Vincent Noel A.
Akala ko doctorate ka na.
One, two, three.
Akala ko doctorate na sa di pala.
Mr. Fisher Rodriguez.
Ano ma'am? Ako doctorate. Pero maganda idea, no? Online vote, internet vote.
At last, 3 pesos pa rin. Grabe naman na yung gastos. 3 pesos pa rin.
Oo, no?
Paalam na ako. Red,
Kaya ka na. Ay, ito ang dapat na.
Kaya po ako. Thank you.
Dami ka ba?
Nakapag siya.
Again, Ms. Patricia Rodriguez. Mr. John Christian Patrick Erosa. Mr. Bernard Austria of the Partido Democrático Socialista ng Pilipinas.